Good morning. My name is David Fryman. It is September 7th, 2025. It's splendid to be back here with you. Welcome to this caring, sincere, moral, and optimistic community on this lovely, overcast fall morning. Our doors are open to all seekers, all who are curious, all who are looking for others who are without judgment of personal beliefs. The summer is over and school is open. Our minister, Reverend Leon Dunkley, will be giving the reflection today, and he offers us this invitation in September, found in the order of service. Do you intentionally invite others into your real life, sharing your struggles, pains, and joys, so that you may engage with them on a deeper level? It's incredible how people will open up once you show them that your life isn't perfect either. If we're honest with ourselves deep down inside, we all want to feel accepted. Being invited to something makes you feel wanted and valued, but the purpose of the invitation matters. Tatum DeBarnes is here. Yes? Oh, okay. We're facilitating spiritual exploration with the children downstairs. If you're visiting today, we would love to have you sign the guest book in the vestibule, and I invite you to rise now and introduce yourself if you're visiting. Any courageous ones? Coffee hour will be held downstairs after the service, served by the board, and that will be followed by a pizza party out on the lawn. I invite you to visit with one another after the service. We have a few announcements. I invite to the Chancellor Mary Blanton first.
Good morning. First, pizza is at the same time as coffee hour. So you'll come outside and make the pizzas, and they should cook fast because the crusts have been par-baked. And we've got the ability to make 34 to 36 pizzas, and we do have gluten-free and gluten-free cheese. So please come and make a pizza. And secondly, how many of you love to see a bank of daffodils or a yard filled of tulips in the spring? Makes our hearts sing, right? Well, this is the time for our fall bulb sale. On the back of the table, on the counter, Fran is holding it up, are several pictures of what we have to offer and order forms. And we're hoping to have a group order so that we can all share the shipping fee. So please either send me an email with your order, or if you take a form, there are forms downstairs too, you can just slip it under the desk and under the door for Joanne's office, and I'll pick them up. So think spring, think flowers. And if you feel that you don't need any more, think about your kids or friends. You can order them for them, and they'll be here the first week of October. So, thank you.
Okay, so peeper season is upon us. so according to the town, this year they're kicking it off the weekend of September 26th. And this year, for I think now the third year in a row, North Chapel is going to be serving soups, breads, and for the first time this year, even some breakfast items on the green for 4 long weekends, starting that weekend through mid-October. So this is a large endeavor, and we need all hands on deck. So types of volunteers we need are not just those who are willing to make soups and breads, but we also need baked goods, we need drinks, we need some breakfast items this year, and we need people to help set up, sell, and break down. So you can come to me after church today to learn more. In the bulletin, you should see a little blurb about it. Joanne's going to be posting this volunteer sign-up link for it. Yes, okay. Joanne will be posting the link to sign up for it every week in the newsletter and a listserv. But if you just want to tell me what you can do, I can also make sure to jot it down on there. Thank you.
Hello everyone, as I'm sure you know, I'm very much a supporter of the organ here as well as the Unitarian Church. We are having a Whitney organ recital on the 5th of October, and I'm looking for somebody who can help me house the player. His name is Abraham Ross, and he's very highly recommended. He knows of the person who once owned this organ, had it built for his studio, and he's going to play us some selections of this guy as a historical memento. So if anybody can help us with housing him. It will be probably the 4th and 5th of October. We appreciate it so much. Thank you.
It has been 24 years since 9/11, 2001. I'm a native New Yorker and have spent most of my life living in New York City. I have a history with the Twin Towers. I worked at several companies as a temporary office employee, and I had a memorable dinner at Windows on the World with my first wife after a City Hall wedding. In 1993, I worked across the street in what was later the Deutsche Bank building. I was carrying my cafeteria lunch tray and the whole building bounced. It was the first terrorist attack on the World Trade Center across the street. The bomb in the underground parking garage was intended to make the North Tower collapse onto the South Tower, taking down both skyscrapers and killing tens of thousands of people. While it failed to do so, it killed 6 people, including a pregnant woman, and caused over 1,000 injuries. About 50,000 people were evacuated from the 7 World Trade Center buildings that day, not to mention those in the neighboring buildings like mine. September 11, 2001 was a sunny primary election day. To make a long story short, I was about to attend a computer training class in Midtown. While we waited for the class to start, we learned that a plane had hit Tower 1. An engineer in the class immediately left because he had a coworker on the top floor who administered the antenna for his company, and he was going to help him. We know that it was hopeless now. I walked up Fifth Avenue from 42nd Street to my daughter's school on East 79th Street, the Rudolph Steiner School near the Metropolitan Museum of Art, a 37-block walk of 1.5 miles. Afraid there would be more targets along the way, such as Trump Tower or the Citicorp building, I detoured through Central Park out of caution. When I arrived, I asked the 3rd grade teacher what they had told the students. She said they told them the story of Saint Michael fighting the dragon. In Judaism, Saint Michael appears in the book of Enoch as one of the 7 archangels, a protector who stands ready to defend the chosen people. In Christian tradition, in the Epistle of Jude, Saint Michael is cited as an example of righteous judgment and opposition to evil. In Waldorf schools, Saint Michael is brought up in an imaginative story where Michael comes with his mighty sword to save a town that is being pestered by a dragon. Subways and buses were not running and millions took to the streets. I walked my daughter home, a 4-mile trek over the 59th Street Bridge to Western Queens. At All Souls Church in New York, they opened the doors for anyone to find refuge and solace, receiving many who walked in covered in ash. In the months that followed, our minister provided trauma counseling at Ground Zero. One more story, Stuyvesant High School, a selective public school for science and math, is across the street from the towers. The students watched the whole thing and were evacuated. And a boy in my children's choir saw it from his elementary school classroom window in Brooklyn, across the harbor. One cannot understate the trauma to children. After these words, we'll have a time of silent meditation and prayerfulness. A reading from Jeremiah chapter 4, verses 23 to 26. I looked on the earth, and lo, it was waste and void, and to the heavens, and they had no light. I looked on the mountains, and lo, they were quaking, and all the hills moved to and fro. I looked, and lo, there was no one, and all the birds of the air had fled. I looked, and lo, the fruitful land was a desert, and all its cities were laid in ruin.
morning. I'm a little broken up today because I lost a friend. You're gonna see that in my being because I can't fake it. But Hooper was a good friend of mine. And he's a dear, dear friend of people who I'm very close to. So I apologize for my affect, but I'll just share it because I believe in being honest with each other. Is that okay? You ever have the feeling of the imposter syndrome? I had that when I was in grade school. I remember going to school one time and I felt like I had the wrong shoes on. They were nice shoes, but they had a platform on the bottom of it that I didn't notice when we bought it, you know, for going back to school. So it was 2 inches taller than I'm supposed to be. And I didn't know how to walk on them. I wasn't as graceful as Lily is in the high heels. Oh my God. And I just felt like I was out of place. Other times I feel like I have the wrong shirt on. I used to actually get nauseous when I felt like I was wearing the wrong shirt. Or sometimes I feel like I have too many clothes on, you know, like I'm overdressed, you know, a turtleneck on a 94-degree day. Anyway, it's good to just sort of wash away some of those feelings that you don't belong. It might always be that you feel those feelings, but there's no such thing as you don't belong here. There's no such thing as that. That's usually someone just trying to be a bully in some kind of a way. If someone brings a behavior or a way of being into a sacred community, you know, the gesture of that community at the highest level is to sort of figure out how to heal that suffering, how to ease that pain. How do you do that when the pain is enormous, you know? What do you think of the word courage? When you think of the word courage, do you like the idea of courage? Do you feel like you have that? Strength. Vulnerability. Bravery. Bernice Johnson Regan, who's a beautiful singer, musician, an artist, would say it's the times when we're shaking in our boots when we're being most courageous, you know. So I'm trying to cleave to that feeling of being like shaking in my boots, but trying to also be brave. Good morning and good Sunday. I hope this day finds you well. Today is Sunday, September the 7th, and the title of this morning's reflection is The Natural Home of Heart and Soul. And I believe that the natural home of heart and soul is courage. The natural home of the heart is courage. That's what it means to be wholehearted. And the faith and the soul, which is eternal, abides. It's an old John Denver song that I learned a long time ago when I was probably 8 or 9. He was born in the summer of his 27th year. Oh my God. Coming home to a place he'd never been before. He left yesterday behind him. You might say he was born again. You might say he found the key to every door. That's a beautiful thing. When I first heard that song, I didn't know what it meant. I just loved singing it, you know. I didn't understand the religious part of it, you know. You might say he was born again was kind of lost on me. I was like, I don't know what that means. You're born once as far as I know. But he left us nothing to unpack. It was a genuinely religious line. I just didn't know what it meant. But the thing that I loved was the idea of coming home to a place you'd never been before. How do you do that? Have you ever had that experience of coming home to a place you've never been before? I think it's a practice of our spirit. I think it's an exercise of the soul to try to figure out how to do that. How to relax enough to enter into a city or enter into a relationship that you've never been in before and trust deeply enough in yourself and in others to be able to offer yourself honestly to them and be able to receive them as honestly as possible. The song went on. It said, he climbed cathedral mountains. He saw silver clouds below. He saw everything as far as you can see. And they say that he got crazy once and he tried to touch the sun. What an aspiration. It's like Icarus, though. It's the Icarus story, right? Maybe we should turn the story just a little bit, you know, become a little bit wiser and braver into that story, and imagine that, like, what is the sort of motto, what is the take home from the Icarus story, right? What is it? Don't fly too high. Don't get too close to the sun. But let's put that aside for a while, because, you know, Icarus was cooler than that. You know, if you read the story closely enough, what you realize is Helios, who is the sun, was jealous of Icarus. So they leave that part of the story out, and it's not simply that Icarus flew too high. It didn't matter where Icarus was going to be. Helios was going to find him because Icarus's dad had betrayed his daughter, so he was just mad. What if it's okay to imagine flying higher than we fly? What if it's okay to sort of take off the cap that story imposes on us and see if we can go higher and get better than we are? There was a protest at Tribo Park, about a few weeks ago, after the Shir Shalom, the fence was, after the graffiti appeared on the fence outside of Shir Shalom. For those of you who don't know, there's a rail fence outside of the synagogue here in town, and on one of the white railings, someone had sprayed in red spray paint and a stencil, Free Palestine. It was a violation of that. Whatever the sentiment, however noble the cause, it was a defilement of that house, and it felt like a transgression. So, like, how do we capture that sort of feeling of frustration and rebellion without hurting another person, you know, without it costing someone else? Do you know anybody who has done that? Who's been able to stand in the fire of great pain and suffering and offer up something better than revenge?
Just saw a man do it.
Sorry?
Just saw a man do it. The man played the piano.
Yes, that was a beautiful story. I don't know your name, sir. What's your name? Ken. Thank you, Ken. I bristled with that story. I understood where you're going right away, and I was like, oh God, he's going to tell that story. I'm like, yeah. Thank you for being that brave. It comes with a certain humility. That's not always what's expected of us. It's hard to feel exhausted and frustrated, and many of us feel exhausted and frustrated now, so overfull of sorrow after the shootings in schools, after the behavior of some of our leaders, because tough things keep happening day after day with no end in sight and no real action plan, not one that is on par with the losses that we keep suffering. We're in such a place these days, a separate but seemingly continuous group of tragedies just seems to keep happening, and we become captives sometimes of our own frustrations. We've allowed ourselves to become bitter and broken and shattered by the violences that we're not yet committed to stopping. Like they have in New Zealand. They've committed to stopping some of these violences in New England. Former Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, would you please tell me, what is your secret? And were she here today, if I could ask her, although she is here in soul spirit, she'd say, dearest North Chapel, isn't it obvious? Believe in yourselves. Be honest enough to admit that you don't know what you're doing sometimes. And believe in yourselves anyway. Believe with the fire of sons. When she was running for prime minister, of course, there were those who doubted her candidacy. Do you think you can credibly lead a government? One embarrassingly male journalist asked her. And she responded by saying, would you like to tell me why you don't think I can? and the rebellion in her body and the look in her eye, while remaining respectful, was such beauty. The real power she shows us, the true strength of grace, the life force of compassion. Her detractors were few, but her supporters were and still are so many. She lights something up in us and in the whole wide world around her. Her supporters told her, "Step up to the plate or watch your party die." How's that for an invitation? Right? Step up to the plate or watch your party die. And so she did. She stepped up to the plate and she climbed a mountain, she sailed the sea, and she cleaved to what was brave in her, and she delivered it to us tenfold. She was my prime minister, even though I live right here in Vermont. That became her way. Jacinda Ardern said, "We will remain relentlessly positive. This is who we are as New Zealanders." It wasn't hubris. It wasn't bombast. It was insight. Know and claim the difference, dear beloveds. You flowers of God's own heart. Jacinda Ardern struggled, of course. How could it be otherwise? But she always came home to courage, the natural home of the soul, and in ways that she had never known before. And she said to herself, and she freely admits it, in 2017, at the time of her election, she said, "I naturally have natural anxieties for someone who is 37 years old and pregnant." I hadn't realized she was pregnant when she ran for prime minister. This woman is so amazing, and so are we. She said, "Every time I got onto a plane, I would look out the window and I would think, from that mountain to that river, that's my responsibility. And I have 3 years to do all I can." But in the back of my mind, I thought, how am I going to do this with a baby? And I would just feel sorry for myself listening to that, because you just have no idea what's coming. I had absolutely no idea. How shall we remain relentlessly positive? How do you keep that part of your heart open? After the shooting in Minneapolis at the Catholic school, it was the mayor who darkened a bit, right? And he said, don't just give us your thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying in the school in their first week back in the Catholic school. They were in church, and these kids were learning with their friends, and they should be playing on the playground. They should be able to go to church or go to school in peace without fear or risk of violence. And I could hear the shatteredness and the brokenness in the mayor as he said that. How do we overcome that feeling? How do we stay present to it, but yet overcome it? Especially when it leaves us speechless and wanting for something more. Words are important. Speaking is a talent. It's not normal. It is common that speaking is spoken of as an ability, but it's much more than that. It's heavier than that. It's darker and it's richer. Speaking is a talent. We speak too lightly sometimes. We forget that the world is sacred and is spoken into being. When we are drawn by Christianity, we may be familiar with the opening passage from the Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was good, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And when we are called by Judaism, we may be familiar with the words in the Torah that says, when God blew a soul into Adam, he became not only a living, but a speaking being. When we are moved by mindfulness and wakefulness, when Buddhism calls us by our name, we are deeply and compassionately guided by what is called right speech. And what is right speech? Right speech is a communication in the service of one's own and others' freedom and awakening. A fuller answer, a more traditional definition, comes to us in the negative. Right speech is traditionally defined as abstaining from 4 particular kinds of communication: false speech, harsh speech, divisive speech, and idle speech. So basically, the Buddha says if you want to use communication in the service of your own freedom and awakening, don't use words that misrepresent the truth. Don't speak with the intent to harm. Sharp speech, cruel speech that is spoken in a tone that is biting. Avoid that kind of speech. Don't speak divisively. Avoid speech that has the intent to separate people, pitting one group against another. Don't waste words. Avoid idle speech, speech that is useless and wasting energy as if without purpose. My Lord, expand for me my breast with assurance, and ease for me my task, and untie the knot from my tongue, that I may understand my speech. So it says in the Quran. In ancient Mediterranean culture, it is said that there were two great orators, Cicero and Demosthenes, the Greek. When Cicero spoke, the people exclaimed, "Great speech, wonderful message. I couldn't agree with you more." And then they showered him with accolades, adoration, and standing ovations. And it was when Demosthenes spoke that the people shouted, "Let us march." We can march for peace and justice, for loving kindness and compassion. How do we do that? As boldly and as compassionately as we can. Joni Mitchell has that line when she says, you have to shake your fists like lightning now, you've got to run like forest fire. You've got to spread your light like blazes all across the sky, because they're going to aim the hoses on you, and you've got to tell them that you won't expire, not till you've burned up every passion, and not even when you die. Come on now, you've got to try. If you're feeling contempt, then you tell it. If you're tired of the silent night, Jesus, then you yell it. Condemned to wires and hammers, strike every chord that you feel, that broken trees and elephant ivories conceal. Does the image come through to you, this condemned to wires and hammers? Do you know what that means? Condemned to wires and hammers is the piano. Strike every chord that you feel, that broken trees and elephant ivories conceal. So when you're feeling that, how do you express it? Joni's way was musical. She sang. That song began with the words, "No tongue in the bell and the fishwives yell, but they might as well be mute." The tongue of the bell is the thing that creates the sound. What is it that when we've had that tongue taken from us? Last week, we met in Barnard for the annual service for the churches of the Upper Valley. And Norwich was there, and Heartland was there, and Bethel was there, and, well, Bethel was there in spirit. Stratford was there, and Woodstock was there. And it was an experiment. We explored the deep meaning of the Declaration of Independence. And Paul brought us to a realization that many of the grievances that were part of the Declaration of Independence are present and active right now. So if you were to go to read the Declaration and heard that the king in 1775 was falsely imprisoning people, was turning people against one another, was using false speech to hurt one another, was sending people to foreign countries to imprison them for false cause, those are literally in the document of 1776. What it means to be an American right now is not defined by the topical leaders. It's designed by the culture that we live and are and live into. The most beautiful moment, the bravest moment, the moment that had the most courage, the moment that was an answer to a prayer, was at the very end. And I was afraid to do it. I didn't know if I would be able to carry it off, and I would be spectacularly embarrassed if I couldn't pull it off. But we started singing, what would you do if I sang you a song? Would you stand up and walk out on me? Lend me your ears and I'll sing you a song, and I'll try not to sing out of key. Oh, I get by with a little help from my friends. And as we were singing that, oh, that's good. I didn't know if I'd be able to. I was like, they're going for it. we knew the service was over and there was a good spirit in the heart. I wanted the final part of the prayer to be shared with a friend of mine named Prue Schuler. You might know her. She's a member of this congregation and a great leader. And she was sitting right where you are right now, Sherry. So I walked out as we were singing that, and I asked her if she would dance with me in the aisle. And she said, no. And I said, please. And she put her hand in mine and said, no. And then she got up and we started to dance, and people danced in the aisles. If there's a spirit in the world today that is making it harder for us to just reach out our hands and say, will you dance with me? Let's get rid of that. If there's a way to push aside how we participate by agreeing to be those people, let's put that aside. But let's do it gracefully, and let's do it courageously. And I'll end with this story. At Tribal Park, when that ended, there was a very powerful, spirited confrontation that happened. And I tried to intervene because I didn't want a bad thing to end a good gesture. But the women who were talking were both committed to the cause of peace. But something had been broken in one of them and needed healing. To have something broken in you doesn't mean that something's wrong. It might mean that something's right. And there's a young woman right now named Miss Rachel. I don't know if you know about her. The mothers might know Miss Rachel. Who said yes? I did. Miss Rachel runs a little show that she does, songs for children. Her target audience is like 3 and 5-year-old kids around the world. And her premise is that she believes in the health and well-being of all children. That has become a radical message in our world right now. She's been targeted as an anti-Semite and a Hamas supporter because she believes in the health and well-being of children, no matter where they live. We can manifest a gentle, understanding response to that, however vulgar the gesture is. Think about the beauty of your own heart and simply push it aside. I don't know where you found the strength, Ken, to push aside the meaning of that word and find the beauty in that young woman who was cursing you. The young woman who cursed me in a similar situation was not white. She was black, and she used the same language. How do we, though, think about it right now, how do we not respond with the same energies that are delivered to us? The farther we go in the spiritual journey, the harder those messages will be. So how do we prepare to receive a difficult message and offer back some grace? I want to end with the words of Jacinda Ardern and recognize that Prue knew how to do it, so I need to learn from her. Jacinda Ardern says, it's hard to switch on the news some days and just to think, wow, the world is a dumpster fire. How do we shine a light on the humanity that I know is still there? You can be anxious, sensitive, kind. You can be a mother, a nerd, a crier. You can be all of these things, and you can lead just like me. What does leadership look like in the best part of our hearts? I have no doubt that you have the best answers for these things. May it be so. Blessed be.